Hey, it's Ben here. Welcome to the Mile Deep Micropod. This session is on a question that you'll see in the scorecard, which is I am good at creating structures to support my goals. Now, what I would term this is something called structural discipline. And in this micropod, what we're going to do is we're going to go mile deep into structural discipline. It's the ability to make and create and break structures that help you and support you with your transformational goals. Now, I created this podcast because I wanted to help people just like you, professional people who wanted to do more with their lives, who wanted to get more from their work, who wanted to have more income, more impact, and more freedom. And I believe that by getting just 5 things right when trying to pursue what I call a 10x shift, that you will find it easier, more straightforward, or way more certain. Now, in these micropods, what I want to do is I want to give you a really, really deep understanding of each of the questions that you'll see on the scorecard, which is attached to the comments or what they call the captions on this podcast. So if you haven't taken that already, I highly recommend you doing that. But one of the statements that you'll see when you do the scorecard is, I am great at creating structures to support my goals. Now, when I look at that question, what it speaks to me is that when you have a desire or something you want to create in the world, that you're very good at building the structure in your calendar, in your life, in your relationships, in your day-to-day, in your annual calendar to make sure that it happens. And I believe that so many people struggle with this. I think this is a big one. I think you're going to get a lot of value for sticking around from this podcast, because what I'm going to talk about is the structures I've had in place to support my goals, what I help clients with, and when these structures are in place, what happens, and equally some of the things that you need to be aware of when you're trying to, really go a mile deep on making sure this is a reality for you. So first and foremost, when you are a high-performing person, you absolutely need an annual structure in place. So you need an annual goal-setting rhythm. Now, even though we might set some annual goals, like annual goals are great for looking like, this is what I want to do this year. I'm going to break it down into 4 quarters. This is what I want to achieve in the next 90 days. Having a space every single year that you can go and get clear is essential. Like I've done this. I've been very fortunate. I've been on a retreat every year since I was like 23 years old, and I've made my best decisions on retreats. It's a structure that I've put in place. I put money aside. I invest in this, and it's been the most pivotal moments and decisions that I've made to transform my business, my life, my relationships, all sorts have been made on retreats. So you need an annual goal setting rhythm. Now, whether that's something that you take a couple of days out at the start of the year, whether you've got a team and you go off and do 2 days away from the workplace, whether you bring your team together for a team building day, whatever this is, there is so much value to doing this. We used to do it in Fast Way to Fitness. We did it on Awakened Man. All the businesses that I've been part of, when there's been an annual goal setting rhythm, this has made a massive difference in the business. And here's why. What it does is it then feeds into the quarterly rhythm, the monthly rhythm, the weekly rhythm, and the daily rhythm. It's almost, you've got to have the big picture thinking in order to dial in and be accurate with the actions you take on a daily basis. And that's the skill set of a visionary, right? Of a CEO. It's being able to oscillate between the big picture thinking and making sure that the things that are happening to make that big picture thinking happen on a daily basis. And it's like looking really big and then paying attention to the detail, looking really big and then paying attention to the detail. And you may be a one-man, one-woman CEO with a small team. You might be leading a workforce of hundreds, if not thousands. This is a very, very imperative skill set. So if you think about this, you might do it in your business, but are you doing it in your personal life? Are you saying to your spouse, your partner, is it that you've got family goals and then we're going to go away, we're going to set our goals together for the year, our targets? Now, that's a structure. That's putting that structure in place. Like every year I go on a retreat. Every January I set my goals. Every quarter I look at what I've created and I plan what I'm going to do next. At the end of each week, do I review my week and I plan for what's coming? And then do I do that in line with what I've proposed for the year. This is so important. And this way of running your business, your health, your relationship, it sounds so structured and rigid. However, discipline equals freedom. If you think about this structural discipline will give you so much more in your relationship. Like having that ability to say, okay, what do we want to do in our relationship this year? What do we want to achieve together? What do we want to do? Do we want to have kids this year? Do we want to go on holiday this number of times? Do we want to have an impact as a family? What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Who do we want to be with? How much money do we want to bring in? What do we want to do as a family this year? Having the structure to ask those questions and the time and the space allocated to ask those questions is so valuable. And that's the first thing we need to do. And the easiest way, it sounds like overly simple, but the easiest way is to open the calendar and put 2 days aside. That's what a lot of clients do with me when they come on the Dubai Deep Dive. This is the function of the Dubai Deep Dive, is to do exactly that. It's to go a mile deep into the things that you really want, that are holding you back, that you want to let go of, and the things that you want to develop about yourself, the steps you want to take, and that you need help thinking of what steps are next. All of that stuff is done one-to-one on the Dubai Deep Dive. But equally, it's having that drumbeat, whether it's you do it autonomously or you join a group like the 10X Tribe, that is what a coach will provide for you, right? And it's putting those structures in place. You can, of course, you can do this without the help of an external person. However, what you'll find is gathering this experience from somebody else who's good at leading you through this sort of thing will make it more potent. The next thing is setting up for deep work and deep love, like the structures to support your goals. You need deep work time. You also need deep rest and deep love time. And this is what I think I love about Hina's message. I love about what she's sharing right now is the more I rest, the more I make. And the deep love time, what happens is, and this is something I noticed, especially when I was early on in my business, when I prioritized business over everything, is that what made me guilty and less focused and less potent in the time that I was working was the guilt and the frustration that I wasn't connecting with my family, my relationships, sometimes my spouse or my partner. And albeit it might serve you in the short term, it's going to be the thing that stops you in the long term. So the structure of just focusing on work in the short term may be good for the short term, but I can guarantee it's going to hatchet your progress in the longer term. And that could be something like your health as well. You haven't got the structure in place to go the distance with your health. And really sadly, I heard about a client of mine who I remember when he was struggling immensely with his health. And I was talking about structures, and he said that the biggest priority for me, Ben, is just work. My health can wait. And I heard that he passed away this week, and I was really, really sad to hear it. It was really, it weighed on me heavily. And I could see that he just had this amazing structure for work, and he used to travel for work. He used to work hard all day, travel home at the end of the day. And that was his structure. And this is like structural discipline is the ability to make structures, but also break them down. And this is what we also have to do is like, hang on a second, this structure where I'm cannibalizing my health or my relationships or my mental health for my work, I need to break this. This is something I need to do differently. So what we need to have in place in our calendars, in the way that we think about our life and our work, is we have deep work time like I'm doing now, but then I oscillate out and do deep love where you're really connected with my kids, I'm with Poppy, and that recharges my battery. Especially as a man, over 30, that really does recharge my battery when I'm fully present with my kids. So the next thing here with structural discipline is commanding and obeying yourself. And how many times have you done this? You've said or set an intention and you haven't followed that intention. And the problem is you say to yourself, well, no will no, I'll get away with it just this time. But the problem is that we keep giving into this lower level of thinking, and we teach ourselves that we don't come good on our own promises, and that's very, very it's not great in the long term. If you think about it, your conscious is the thing that you make an imprint off. And it's what you're telling yourself is, I don't command and obey myself. And what we want to do with structural discipline is flip that. Is that, I think it was like Nietzsche who said, he who cannot command himself must obey. And what that is, unless you can command and obey yourself, you will be, you'll have to live a life where you have to obey someone else who will command you. And what that means is essentially is that if you can't be the leader in your life, you will be led by someone else. And that was really, really helpful for me. I was like, actually, do you know what? I can put things in my calendar and obey them. And if I even do 90%, 80% of what's in my calendar every single week, I'm going to have a great week. So this is part of structural discipline, the ability to command and obey yourself. So the next one is creating procedures and practices. If you are able to create the structures that help support your goals, you can create procedures and practices, things that you do every single day. They're dogmatic, they're easy, they happen without thinking. I always use the water example. Every time I sit at my desk, I fill up this bottle of water. If you're watching on YouTube, you're able to see I'm holding water in my hand. I sit down, the water's always full, and when I leave my desk, it's empty. Now, my goal is to be healthy and to be a phenomenal dad with lots of energy. I've built a procedure and a practice that supports that. It's a structure. I do it every day. It's boring. It's dogmatic. At the same time, I don't have to worry about my energy levels dropping. The times that I don't do this are the times that I really struggle. And you'll hear Jocko Willink say all the time, discipline equals freedom. So this is really at the heart of structural discipline and creating structures that create your goals. The next one is breaking structures that don't support your goals. Now, I used to drink on a Friday, and it would be waking up on a Saturday morning feeling tired, maybe skipping training, and maybe I wouldn't train on a Saturday or Sunday, and then my energy levels would be low on a Monday. That structure just didn't support equal energy every single day, because I'd lie in on the weekend. So it's like a 2-hour lie in, which felt like I had jet lag. And that structure just didn't give me the optimal energy. So when I was out in Dubai first year, I was like, hang on a second, let's just make it non-negotiable. I train every day. I get up at 5 a.m. I noticed a considerable difference in my energy. I'd run that 5 and 2 structure for years, like 5 days of training, 2 days off. However, it didn't support the energy that I wanted. So I broke that structure and I created a new one. And that is a really essential skill. It's like, hang on a second, I've got this structure in place I leave work at 6 p.m. I'm tired, I'm burnt out. I get home and my kids and my wife or whoever's at home gets the scraps of what's left in my energy. Now, breaking that structure is so important for the goals you have in your relationships, the goals you have for being a parent. And I think that's what's really important, to be able to look at those structures that aren't working. Like, which structure isn't working right now? Right, I'm going to break it. I'm not going to do that pattern anymore. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to experiment and try it and see how it goes. I'm doing so much of that in my life right now. It's liberating. And that is a skill. It's not a personality trait or a character trait that you either have or don't have. It's just the ability to say, yeah, that structure isn't working. I'm going to break it and I'm going to create a new one. Again, that's what a large part or large portion of what you do in the space of coaching as well. The final one I want to talk about is maintaining this structure in chaos. Now, if you think about this, I have the ability to create structure towards my goals. This is great while everything's easy, while the market's good, where your offer's selling, whether people are buying from your business, whether you've got customers, whether you're climbing the career ladder, whether the relationship's great. That's a great opportunity to have. Things are going well and you're able to stick to your goals. Here's the true test when things aren't going so well. Are you able to double, triple down to your protocols when things aren't going as well as you'd like them to? And this is the making of someone. When things get hard, Like, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And it's kind of that reverse indicator. It's like, hang on a second, things are hard right now. Things are really tough in business, life, relationship. Okay, I need to double down on going to the gym. I need to double down on the way that I eat or how much hydration I have. I need to go to bed on time. But so often I've worked and heard from people saying, oh yeah, things are hard at work right now. I'm not going on too well with Sheila. She's doing my head in. And you know what? I'm staying up too late. I'm having a couple of glasses of whiskey and it's all spiraling. So what happens is, as soon as the going gets tough, we make it tougher by doing some dumb stuff that really doesn't help us spiral up. So what the final part of structural discipline is that actually having that discipline to maintain the structure when there is chaos. And that, if you can, you know, we're going to be talking about reactive discipline in the next couple of weeks, is that when you've got that ability to react to chaos in that way, that you double down on the things that are going to keep you moving, healthy, thinking well, stress-free or neutral, that is going to be a game changer for you as a leader. So that is the micropod in answer to, I am able to create structures to create my goals. Have a think about that. And what's one insight that you can go and take action on as a result of listening today? If you've enjoyed this micropod, please feel free to go and rate the podcast and review the podcast. It's so helpful when you do this. Or if there's somebody you know that would benefit from listening to what I've just shared, feel free to send them this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, or if you're listening to a podcast, get the link, send it over saying, I think this would be a really good investment of your time listening to this about structural discipline. This helps so many people. It's so valuable. And it's such an easy thing to do. And it's not reserved to people who are talented at being structured. Thanks so much for listening and watching. And we'll see you on the next podcast.